When one starts to learn the guitar, you just learn a few chords: D, C, G, A minor, E, E minor, that sort of thing. And if you want to play in a different key, you put a capo on the neck and then just play the same shapes higher up the guitar so that you can go out. If you've got a really good voice, know lots of songs, half a dozen chord shapes will get you out gigging. No bother at all. However, in this day and age, we have to work with other musicians. We do things like playing in a pit band, or we might have a violinist in the studio, or the other musical situations that mean you're going to have to start communicating in some sort of written language. Now, I've got the screen open here showing the treble clef and tablature. And tab is what you easily go online because it's easily done with HTML language. You can actually learn a riff through just numbers and on dotted lines. But it's not a sight reading thing. Sight reading tab is impossible. If I was to, for example, put the riff to Sweet Child of Mine, it does this. At first glance, you go, oh, crikey. The tablature is also wrong because although the notes are correct, it's all over the guitar neck. So it's a nightmare. You can change it on this program, Sibelius, but reading all of these numbers is a bit of a nightmare. So how do we do it all? How do we equate the treble clef to guitar? Because then you can communicate with any other musician, classically trained musician, the violinist, oboe, whatever you've got in your studio, you can actually communicate with them and save yourself a lot of time, in addition to being able to sight read yourself. Let's have a look. So with that riff for Sweet Child of Mine, you can see that the tablature on the top line is just a series of numbers on one string only, whereas what's above it will actually show you that that fifth note is the highest. You can see that instantly, even without reading music. You can see that that top G, that is the highest pitch note that you have in that riff. That's fine. So when you're playing chords, it's clear from the sort of rhythmic context what sort of strumming pattern you might use. If I was to try and replicate that on here, it would be, well, it'd be hideous. Where are we? And then arrest. And then arrest. That doesn't make any sense. I've actually got the rhythms wrong there, but you can see that I don't want to read that. Just somebody put D, C and G in front of me and I'll be happy all day long. So there's number one reason why guitarists don't learn to read treble clef. If they're playing chords, you don't need to bother. You also got the capo here, where you can put a capo and you can play, instead of D, C and G, you can play E. I haven't got my capo with me. D and A. So I'll just put my first finger across. So you've got an E and a D and an A. So it might say at a gig, maybe you've got a different singer on the gig and the singer says, can I have it a bit higher? Yeah, no problem. You just put the capo on and away you go. You don't need to read anything. You just continue to read it as D, C, G, even though it's E, D and A. That's fine. But what happens if you get a studio musician? Let's say you've recorded your album, you want a violinist in, you can sing the line to them and they can sort of try it out and play it. And they say, oh yeah, that's great. And then they go to record and think, oh, hang on, made that mistake there. What was the third note? And before you know it, half an hour's gone. Whereas if you just scrawl the line on a bit of paper and say, there it is, the chances are they'll be in and out of your studio in 3 minutes and you've saved masses of time. So how do we get started on this then? Well, the bottom string of a guitar is quite low on the treble clef. So it's 1, 2, 3 lines with a blob underneath. Then we've got the A, which is still quite low, D, G, B, and E. So there are your open strings on the guitar. You can see the tablature is showing your zeros. And then you've got those notes in the treble clef which show your open strings. That's a really good start. You could just print that out, stick it on your fridge. Every time you go past it, oh yeah, oh yeah. And then everything else happens in between. Now, of course, this is not talking about sharps or flats at all. That comes later. So what I'm going to do is just write a tune out that we all know. Oh, let's put that note in again. Got the wrong, there you go. The opening bars of Ode to Joy. And it makes sense from the tablature. You can see 0, 0, 1, 3, 3, 1, 0, 3. Now, that rhythm in the last bar, the tablature doesn't offer what the rhythm is there. It doesn't say. You think, well, how do I know? Well, the rhythm is given in that fourth bar. Everything else is just quarter notes. And then you have this, what's known as a dotted rhythm. Ba, ba, ba. And so learning how to read that, the rhythms and the notes, is really important. But this is a very good starting point. If I was to do this an octave down, I've just changed the note values on that little keypad there, so I can sort of put notes in and just change the rhythms as I need to go. So this time we've got 2, 2, 3, 0, and then now, one of the problems for guitar or any string instrument is that I could play this in a different place. Where should I play it? Well, it depends where you're going. It's a good idea with any string instrument to try and avoid open strings because they have a slightly different sound to fretted ones. Also, you can put vibrato on all of the strings there. So you can create a more expressive sort of sound if you're not relying so much on open strings. So the tablature may give you the numbers, but you can change it. You can think, well, actually, I'm going to play it here. So when you're playing through that top line there, I know it says 0013. Experiment with playing it higher up. And always read the treble clef, because you know the tune. Once you've learnt it, you can just read the top line. And then the whole thing becomes clear. Now, if I was to say, so if I was to change the key, this is going to be an issue here. If I just get rid of all that there, and that one. So I'm going to put it in the key of D major instead. Okay, so I have to go to the beginning and I have to ask for a key of D. You've got those two sharps at the beginning. This is telling you that every F and C that comes across in the music is a sharp. On the piano, that is going to manifest itself as having this F sharp here. Leave that rhythm at the end, just save some time. So the first note looks like an F, which is at first fret, but it's not. It's an F sharp because of the cymbals that we get at the beginning. So you've got to be aware not only of key, but also the notes themselves. If I was to get rid of that key signature there, those two sharps at the beginning, if I reselect C major, C major, it's put the sharps in front of the notes for you. You can do it this way, but actually it's not done that way. It's usually you have a key signature at the beginning which tells you you have all of these different sharps. Well, F sharp and C sharp. So you can see that the F sharps are given. You could go down this route to begin with, just have the sharps written in, but it's better to deal with key signatures from the very beginning. Duration of notes, as I said, is not given in tablature. We have this note, which is a whole note or a semi-breve. I quite like the American system here, a whole note in the time signature of 4/4, which I forgot to put in. It defaults to 4/4. Most music is in 4. So if I put the time signature here, you can see there's a 4/4 next to the treble clef there. That means there are 4 quarter notes or 4 crotchets in a bar. 4 crotchets can equal 1 half note, or it can equal 1 whole note, 2 half notes, 4 quarters, 4 eighths, and 16 16th notes. And you can have any combination of these. Basically, the more flags that you see under the notes, the quicker they go. And everything is kind of, well, with a few exceptions, everything is halving or doubling. So you have a beat that does this. Eighth notes, eighth notes, eighth notes, eighth notes. There was 16ths there, and you can have 1, 2, 3. You can have half notes. You can have things like the dotted rhythm that I just showed you. Ba, 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 ba. Where you have a crotchet with a dot next to it. Now what that means is that it's a crotchet or a quarter note plus half of its own value again. So it's actually 3/8 notes there. So if I put an 8th note here, that completes that half of the bar. So we've got 4/8 notes there. And I could actually have the opposite way round. So I could have this. You can have dotted notes of any description. The best thing to do is to just have a look at a tune you know and have a go at reading it on the guitar, because you will surprise yourself with how quickly you can get around it. Not only that, you'll be able to give information to other musicians in your studio, and you suddenly think, I've produced my record. I've had 3 people in and out today doing their sessions, and I've managed to do it all. Doing things by rote is hard work. It's good for your ears, however. You know, there is so many facets to music, and actually reading music is only one of those things. Don't treat it as a catch-all that you have to read everything, because actually music doesn't work like that.